Thank you very much. It's great to be here, part of this conversation. And I've actually learned something myself today. So I've come today to reflect on experience in the UK and the EU and elsewhere, and in a sense to talk about the impact of impact, if you see what I mean. Really, in a sense, impact is in part about academics finally marketing themselves a bit better. And it's partly about selling what we do. But more than that, and I think you've gone well beyond this, Mary, it's about actually engaging in a conversation with the beneficiaries and users who use your research. And in terms of my own reflections, and this is purely my own reflections, these are personal comments, they're not those of my institution. Firstly, this isn't going away. It's here to stay. It's happening in the US, in Europe, in Australia, around the world. And if Irish universities want to engage in international collaborations, and I know that they do from having been the expert evaluator on the smart specialisation strategy, and Declan can say whether I was any good or not, then you're going to have to take this seriously, and you're already starting to do that. In the British case, the case study element of the research excellence framework that you heard about has been very, very useful, I think. But one comment I would make to the Minister and to others here today is to make sure that you align your systems. We have different types of impact discussed under the REF system and from the funding bodies. So they're slightly different, and that does actually cause some transaction costs for academics who are trying to measure impact in different ways. So if you are going to go for this in a big way in Ireland, make sure you line it all up so that you're all singing from the same hymn sheet. It's important, I think, as we heard from Mary, that underpinning this is excellent research. And you are not going to get anywhere in terms of impact of research that isn't of an excellent quality. That's quite clear, for example, in the UK measurements of impact. And there's no trade-off, in fact, between high academic quality and impact. That was one of the fears of many academics when this started in the UK, but that hasn't been the situation at all. Underpinning all of this has got to be really solid, decent academic research, which we can then look to see whether it's had impact. I think one of the things, from my own point of view as well, is that in a university context, a team approach is hugely important. Some people are very good at blue skies thinking. Other people are very good at translation. Other people are very good at doing impact. You need all of them. And so in terms of how we work together, that's hugely important in building teams of people that can do different things. In my own case in Aston, I probably spend now a day a week on impact activities. That might be discussing research with the media. It might be in presenting to businesses. It might be having, I've got a business breakfast tomorrow. I've got to fly back late tonight to do something. I spend a lot of time on impact. Some other people won't spend so much time doing that, but we see it as part of a range of different skills. We're not expected to do everything, but everybody has got to be aware of the role of impact and how ultimately, as an organisation, we have to deliver that. And I think as well, impact is hugely important in delivering in terms of securing income, invitations, and also citations. In particular, my work with the media is very important because at the end of the day, a policymaker, a minister, isn't going to sit down and read one of my academic papers. He or she may become aware of it through the media, in me talking about it in the media. And in that sense, the media literally intermediates between what I do as an academic and potential end users. So using the media and working with them in that sense is hugely important. I should add as well that impact can be a lot of fun. At the end of the day, I am a professor. I am meant to profess something. I'm meant to talk about the role of industrial policy or regional policy in society. And in doing that, I have to engage in public debates. I find that now a lot of fun. When I first started, I was scared stiff. I think most important, though, and we heard this earlier from the Minister, it's really important as well in terms of student recruitment and in informing our teaching. I was coming here last night in a taxi. The taxi driver was asking me where I was going. And he started talking about, I don't know if he's here today, Stephen Kinsella, are you here? Is Stephen here? Yeah. And he was well aware of what Stephen does. You know, he does a fantastic job in terms of marketing the university. We use that at Aston in terms of tweeting about what I do, using social media, connecting with potential students, showing videos of what we do in the media at open days. It either works very well with the students or very well with the parents who ultimately are picking up the tab when they pay a £9,000 fee to come to the university. So in terms of our student recruitment and informing teaching, it's hugely important as well. In terms of how this agenda has impacted on us, it's made us think about what impact is, and we've heard definitions earlier, so I won't go over them again. They're very similar in terms of how we've been forced to think about impact. But what it has done is made us think at the outset about a number of different things. Firstly, who benefits? Is it business? Is it different organisations? Is it policymakers? Is it the public sector? Is it the wider public? Is it charity? Some of my work at the moment, for example, is with Unite the Union in the UK. Previously, I've done a lot of work with automotive companies. I'm working with Unite to help them develop their automotive strategy. That's an impact. It's working with an organisation that has a serious role to play in society. We have to think about how they will benefit. Does it improve policy effectiveness? Does it improve the quality of life? Does it deliver an economic benefit? We have to make sure, how do those potential beneficiaries engage with the research? How do we manage the project to actually make that happen in terms of our communication methods, the involvement of collaborators, different stakeholders and user groups? And we have to think about when the impact will occur. We've heard about that already. We've thought in particular about how to try and maximise our impact. And the things here that come to mind in terms of reflecting on what we've done include things like building networks and relationships with research users and the media, involving users and the media at all stages of our research, plan our public engagement and knowledge exchange strategies. That sounds quite fancy, but it just means having a plan to actually engage with people. And over time, as in a sense related to the last speaker, build up portfolios of research activity that build up relationships over time. And if possible, use intermediaries like the media to actually disseminate our findings. So I just want to finish really by talking a little bit about engagement with the media. And this is something that many academics are very scared about. They find it different and daunting, and so did I. But we found it very useful in disseminating our findings. It's in our interest to do it, and remember as well that the bar is actually set pretty low. Simply being able to turn up and say something vaguely sensible actually goes a long way in the media. You'll gain access, knowledge, and contacts, and it's forced me to think a bit more about my research questions. So, when I'm constantly getting asked something from the media, I think, actually, maybe there is something there. Maybe there is something I can look at. For example, about why take-up of electric cars has been so low, and we've done all sorts of research looking at what are the barriers and drivers of that. It can actually be fun. I do actually enjoy it increasingly, and it can help progress your career. Many of the invites that I get to do things come from somebody seeing me on the TV or hearing me on the radio. I get a lot more engaged with business and wider society because of that. Now, as academics, we have to realise that there are costs and there are risks involved in dealing with the media. But I think one of the key reflections for me is that the benefits far outweigh them, and you can do lots of things to manage those risks quite sensibly. For example, realising that you're in charge. You can say no to certain things. You can choose to answer the questions that you want. And in particular, one of the things that used to scare me a lot was doing a live interview. And yet, actually, you're in complete charge of a live interview. It doesn't matter what they ask you, you can get your message over. So there are things that you can learn to make that a lot more of a manageable process. And I think, finally, the thing I would say is that partly that's about trying to be accessible. Previously, our job was doing some really interesting research, getting it published and thinking that was the end of a process. It isn't. That's the start of a new process. And I think that's what today is all about, understanding that that is part of our normal job, and we need to think about it in terms of what we do as academics. So, thank you very much.